The painting you're looking at was made by the French artist François Baranger. What makes the painting such a good answer to the question in the title is how much of the creature is actually shown. Cthulhu is notoriously hard to paint because most of his horror lives in the eldritch and incomprehensible nature of his existence, something each reader can only finish in their own imagination. The safe move have always been to keep him mostly hidden, but Baranger does the opposite, and he has said why. Many people read Lovecraft as a writer of pure suggestion, a writer of the unspeakable. Baranger thinks that view is too narrow. He agrees that this side of Lovecraft is indeed real. Lovecraft is full of things hidden in the shadow, things that cannot be described because they drive mad anyone who sees them. But Baranger says there is a second side too. He calls it the epic side. Lovecraft's literature also describes giant and enormous creatures and lost cities in full detail, and that side, Baranger says, is the one that works best as painting. This painting is where Baranger pushes that the furthest. The whole creature is in the frame and almost nothing hidden away. The painting comes from Baranger's illustrated version of the Call of Cthulhu, that is the H.P. Lovecraft story written in 1926 and first published in Weird Tales in 1928. The painting's title is Cthulhu Chasing the Alert, and it shows the most important moment in the story when a small ship full of explorers meets Cthulhu for the first time. But before we look at how Baranger built this painting, we need to understand the specific story behind it. The Call of Cthulhu is built as an investigation. A man named Francis Thurston inherits a box of papers from his dead great uncle, and the more he reads, the more he uncovers a secret cult spread across the world, all worshipping the same sleeping god. The trail runs through a sculptor's nightmares and a police raid in the swamps outside of New Orleans. But the part that matters for this painting is the last one, the account of a Norwegian sailor named Gustav Johansen, the only man who reached the elder god and came back. Johansen was the second mate of a ship that was attacked at sea by a steam yacht called the Alert. His crew won the fight and took the Alert for their own. And as they went sailing on, they came upon an island that had risen out of the South Pacific. This island was named Relia, the sunken city where Cthulhu had slept for an age. Lovecraft specifically gave the island this name because it is the line the cult keeps repeating at the start of the book, and the cult's line goes something like this: in his house at Relia, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. The men aboard the Alert went ashore and opened a great door in the stone, and out came Cthulhu after them. They ran for the ship with the creature chasing them through the water behind them. At the last moment, Johansen swung the Alert around and drove its bow straight into Cthulhu's head. The head burst like a breaking wave, then began pulling itself back together. The island sank behind them, and of the whole crew, only Johansen made it home to tell what he had seen. That collision is the exact moment the painting captures. And now for the part that matters for the title. Lovecraft built Cthulhu to be unpaintable, and he said so directly inside the story. The best description comes from the sculpture statue, and it is written to fall apart as you read it. The narrator in Call of Cthulhu specifically says that Cthulhu looks like an octopus, then a dragon, and then something almost human. In the end, he admits the mind cannot hold all those parts as one animal. The moment a painter locks Cthulhu into one image, they swap whatever the reader imagined for a single fixed picture, and that picture can never be as bad as the one each reader was already building. That is the problem every illustrator inherits when painting Cthulhu. So there are basically two ways to handle this. You can keep the creature mostly hidden off the edge of the frame or down in the dark and let the reader's imagination do the work. Or you can show it and do your best to try and make it as epic and scary as possible. And this is what Baranger decided to do. So why does this painting depict Cthulhu so well? The first tool is scale, and it sits in the lower left corner. The steam yacht is the only thing in the painting the size we already know. We measure everything else against it. Next to that little ship, Cthulhu looks just as big as the storm. Likewise, the colors are kept simple, mostly grays and whites. The sea and the sky are almost the same shade. The only hard light is the two bolts of lightning on the upper left. Cthulhu sits to the center and right. Its face and tentacles point forward, and the upper body and one torn wing are painted in full. The lower half stays hidden in the wave and the spray, even with this much shown. The painting never lets you see where the body ends and where the sea begins. Behind it, broken stone shapes rises up to the left and fade into the mist. That is the island of Relaya. Baranger paints the city loosely, so it has no clear size of its own, and this also lets Cthulhu borrow much of his size from the city itself. Another important aspect is that the whole image is built around a collision instead of a pose. The ship is caught turning into the wave while Cthulhu is still rising out of it. Nothing in this frame is standing still, and the lack of stillness in this painting also makes us the viewer feel like we're actually part of this scene, which again adds to Cthulhu's horror and immense presence. Before the last point in this video, there's something worth knowing. This is not the only time Baranger painted this scene. He went back to the same minute of the story again and again and painted it from different angles, like a director, shooting one moment in several takes. That makes sense given his background. A concept artist's job is to lay a scene out from more than one angle, and that is exactly what these next paintings are. Two of them sit right next to the one we have been looking at, and they show the same trick working at different distances. The first is called Desperately Rowing, and it depicts the moment where the men have just awoken Cthulhu and are now trying to get back to the boat to escape the island. Cthulhu has only just come out of the sea on the right, its wings thrown open with the lightning breaking around them, and the drowned towers of the island stands in the mist behind it. Down in the lower corner, riding the side of a wave and almost swallowed by it, is a small rowboat. You can just make out the men, still bent over the oars. There is no steam yacht here, no engine, only a handful of men in an open boat against a thing the size of a mountain. That is the widest the size gap ever gets across the three paintings. It is the same scene and the same trick as the first one, but the boat has shrunk and the odds have gotten worse. The second is called The Alert Strikes Back, and it is the collision itself, a moment after the painting we started with. Baranger paints it wide and low, the shape of a cinema screen, so your eye runs left to right across the whole collision. The steam yacht is driving straight into the body of Cthulhu, and a hard burst of light shears out of the point where they meet. On the right, a single huge limb arches up out of the water like a second wave. By this point, Cthulhu has almost stopped looking like a creature. He reads as a long dark ridge of mass and breaking water, more landscape than animal, because at this range and this speed, there's nothing left to study. It has stopped being a monster and become a collision, essentially. That is 3 paintings of 1 minute of the story. The angle changes and the distance changes, but in every one, that small boat is doing the same quiet job. It is the ruler Baranger hands you, the one human-sized thing that tells you how big the rest of it is. Once you have spotted it in one painting, you start seeing it in all of them. And here's the move that makes these paintings depict Cthulhu so perfectly. Think about what would happen when you paint a monster completely. When you show all of it, the viewer can take its measure. They can see where it ends and how big it is. And a monster you can measure is a monster you can grasp. Baranger gets out of this trap by painting the wrong thing. He does not really paint the creature, he paints the ship. That little hole in the corner is the only thing in the frame whose size we already know, and the moment it is there, Cthulhu loses any size of his own. Everything else in the painting guards that effect. The lower body stays down in the water, the ruins behind it stay soft in the mist. He shows you the monster and hides the measurements. So that is the answer. You do not paint Cthulhu by painting Cthulhu. You paint something small beside it and let the creature be everything that small thing is not. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.